It's time now for our main guest here on Good Morning Sunday. Bonnie Wright is an actress and author, probably best known for playing Ginny Weasley in all the Harry Potter movies, which recently, by the way, celebrated its 20th anniversary. She's just released her very first book, Go Gently, a practical guide for sustainability at home, and it's a beautiful, beautiful book. I'm delighted to say that Bonnie joins us now. Welcome to Good Morning Sunday, my darling.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Bonnie.
So tell us about the book. What inspired you to write it?
Yeah, sure. I think like many people have a growing concern of our environment and just climate change and climate crisis and how it affects or is already affecting so many people across the globe. So I started to take action. I particularly was mainly focused in sort of ocean health, single-use plastic pollution. And I realized at home, a lot of my kind of home practices weren't quite as in line with the issues I cared about. So I really tried to see how I could implement changes in my day-to-day life and my kind of quiet life to have a bit more of a, I guess, tangible relationship to the change I wanted to see. Everything felt quite out of grasp, and I felt quite overwhelmed by the issue. But these at-home practices helped me to kind of connect myself, I think, to the larger world.
And what I really love about the book, apart from visually it's very gorgeous, I have to say, but it's just some of them are quite small tips. They're not like massive sort of, because it's such a big problem, isn't it, that we kind of look at it as a sort of mountain and think, how on earth can I make a difference to all this? What's one of your favourite kind of standout tips in the book?
Yeah, I agree, yeah. The small tips, I've really stressed to people that it's not about overhauling our life and trying to do everything and it's not obtainable. It's kind of like setting yourself too many New Year's resolutions and sort of failing by January. So for me, I guess I always also stress that my favorite thing could be someone else's, not their favorite thing. So for me, I started with addressing, single-use plastic and other packaging in my kitchen, so sort of like how I was buying food and how I was storing that food to get the longest life out of it. So I've always loved that kind of topic for me, just how we can make consumer choices around our food, buying more locally, more seasonally, which means it comes from less far away. We're able to invest in our local economy and kind of make things that are more from whole foods rather than processed or made packaged food.
I'm a sucker for putting things in glass jars, taking them out of the plastic. I like to take all my sort of like strawberries and raspberries and things out of the plastic and put them in a glass jar, and that seems to make them last longer. It also looks prettier in the fridge as well. And saving things, saving sort of old jam jars and stuff for using again. That's sort of my kind of, I like to do that. Plus I think it looks really pretty in the cupboard.
Yes.
What about getting our children and our young people involved?
Yeah, I feel like for me, every time I speak to young people and connect with young people, this is such a big concern for them. They've probably been born into a life where it has been one of the main headlines. For me, it kind of grew as I got older. So at first I kind of really sympathize with that, because I think it can be quite, can create a lot of anxiety, I think, in young people. And I think the beauty of the solutions that exist around the climate crisis is they're very creative. And I think that's fun for children to get involved in, just using our imagination to believe that there are great ways to think around the problem. And, a lot of the ideas that I suggest in the book are really about sort of getting our hands dirty and getting stuck in, whether that's cooking, gardening, making products at home. There's so many different things that we don't need to buy new things. Like you're saying, you can upcycle jars you already have, and I feel like that's something you do as a child. You have imagination to give new life to something that may be deemed by someone else as waste already.
It also feels like some skills that we're rediscovering that perhaps our grandparents or our great-grandparents did quite naturally, that we seem to have forgotten almost.
Yeah, definitely. I think we always think that solutions or ideas have to be about the future, technology, newness, but I do think a lot of these things, as you say, are about looking to our past and not that deep into our past. Like if I think about my grandparents, they would have, made their own clothes or would never have quickly assumed to buy something new if it was broken. They would first fix that. So I think it's really about being more resourceful can make us more resilient, I think, as a species.
And there's something about doing this that there's a camaraderie, isn't there? There's I look at some of these online groups and there's sort of a kind of sense of, I've tried this, and sharing of ideas. So there's a whole community trying to do this together.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what's lovely about community and a movement is it's always full of every type of person. And I think that's what's so wonderful when you talk to people is they somehow, they give some skill or personality or identity of their own to the issue, which makes it way more impactful and, moves the sort of ideas along faster. So, the movement needs every one of us, and we don't need to be sort of too distracted by trying to be perfect and just give it a go.
Okay, we're going to chat more about the book after some music. Let's take a break for some tunes. This is Freya Ridings with Castles. Freya Ridings with Castles. A very good morning to you. 8:31, bang on. It's BBC Radio 2 with the Reverend Kate Botley and me, Jason Mohammed. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning. Our very special guest today is Bonnie Wright. Bonnie's new book, Go Gently, Actionable Steps to Nurture Yourself and the Planet, is out now. It's a gorgeous book as well, Bonnie. You must be delighted with the way it's turned out.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely have. It's always fun to break up the text with beautiful imagery and the illustrations, I feel like, help to digest some larger, more complex topics.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a bit about Wastewatch, the group that you co-founded.
Yeah, sure. I founded that with my friend, Georgia. We felt a bit like everything we were doing was online, like every action we were taking or way we were kind of connecting with the issue. So we really wanted to basically create our own local group that was just about meeting up with people equally concerned in our neighborhood. And we basically organized different speakers to come to those events and help us to be more directly educated by people in the field. And at each meeting, we then committed to like an action we'd each take that we'd kind of talk about at the next meeting.
Fantastic. I particularly like the recipes in the book as well, Bonnie.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I love cooking, so it's fun.
Yeah, how did you choose those? Because no doubt you probably wanted to put more in, did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, definitely had to cut some down. Always just, I guess, came back to, how does it relate to the issue at large? So either I was talking about kind of meal prep and how you can be sort of more, set up for your week ahead to create less waste, or maybe other things were using parts of vegetables that you wouldn't, otherwise use. Yeah,
absolutely. What's the one piece of actionable advice you'd give our listeners this morning, Bonnie?
Yeah, I would suggest maybe to sort of find your way into the action you want to take. Maybe just think about, is there a specific issue within the climate crisis that you care about? For me, it was single-use plastics and ocean health. And maybe intersect that with an area in your home or your day-to-day life you love. Whether that's gardening, you might love technology, you might love reading, walking, getting outside, and maybe use that as the kind of entry kind of point. So for me, I loved cooking, and I first addressed single-use plastics in my home, because I think we all have something so individual to us, and we're more likely to commit to it long term if we feel there's some joy we get out of that area in the home.
Excellent advice. You're so busy. I have to ask you, what have you got lined up? Projects working on? I know you've got a production company, so you must be very busy.
Yeah, I finally going back to a film that I was working on with two other writers before the pandemic, and then I kind of obviously wrote this book during that time. So returning to that film, which is a fictional film, but it's sort of similar themes to this. It's quite connected to the climate crisis, but in a different way. So yeah, back to directing.
Wonderful. Look forward to it, Bonnie. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks to our guest, Bonnie Wright. Go Gently, Actionable Steps to Nurture Yourself and the Planet is out now.